Welcome back. Now, Anna, you recently did an interview with a nonfiction author as well.
Yes, I spoke to Alissa Torres,
Uh-huh.
who is writer of the graphic novel American Widow. She lost her husband on 9/11. It's her story.
And this tells the experience.
That's right.
All right,
Both external and internal changes she had to go through.
Wow.
Wow.
Let's see the interview.
Yes. I'm Anna Cody of ComicologyTV, and it is my great pleasure to be sitting next to Alissa Torres, who's writer of the upcoming graphic novel American Widow. Alissa, thank you so much for joining us. How are you? Now, this is a proof, actually. It's not out yet.
That's an advanced reader's copy.
That's right. Now, this is your first graphic novel.
That's correct.
And will you please briefly tell us what it's about?
Well, it is about being a widow, a 9/11 widow.
Yes. Now, is it true? I read that you were 8 months pregnant.
I was 7.5 months pregnant. That's correct.
You described your husband as extraordinary.
He was from Colombia. He came here as an illegal immigrant, and he worked a lot in sweatshops and other kind of low-paying jobs that illegal immigrants can get, and he ended up on Wall Street in a very high-paying job, which was really fluky, and he was really this very nice man. Yeah.
And was it true it was his first day at work at Cantor Fitzgerald?
It was the second day of work.
Second day of work. Wow. When did you get the idea to write the story?
I went through a lot of really surreal things post 9/11. Again, just imagine being the center of all kinds of chaos and commotion and emotion, and having just these crazy experiences that I just couldn't articulate. Being the center of a media spectacle, just what
there was a media onslaught, you felt.
Oh yeah, there was a media onslaught that I stayed away from. But then eventually, because everything was about me, you know, how do you feel reading newspapers, and it's all about yourself, but not really, but it is. So I started writing, and they were well received. I wrote 7 essays for Salon.com about my experiences, and it was nice. I was able to articulate things, but I didn't have to really be out about in the media, and it was stuff that was my own. And then in about June, I just ended up getting this weird condolence card from NASA, where it's about this big, and it had a little American flag posted on it, and then it had pictures of a space shuttle. And I, at first when I saw it, I just tossed it to the side, but then I picked it up one day and read it again, and they had actually sent this cloth American flag up into space and back, and so that's what the pictures were talking about, the whole story of this. And the card itself, the language on the card was beautiful. So on the one hand, I thought, my God, how ridiculous this is, and this crazy patriotism, and this misguided use of money, and how intensely thoughtful. It was all just very twisted, and I kind of said my life is like a comic book. And also, I think over time, I think I was thinking about the onslaught of images constantly, just looking at pictures of my husband who wasn't there anymore, and just the bombardment of having the towers coming down everywhere you looked.
That everybody saw over and over and over again. And that gave you a visual feel for the story.
So yeah, it was kind of fluky to say, oh, my life is like a comic book, let me write a comic book. But that's how it started.
Now, you have a son, so when did you find time to write?
Well, actually, he took a lot of long naps. So it's really ideal when you have a kid who's sleeping and you can't get out of the house, and you don't have much life going on because you have to look care of this. You know, I'm still babysitting, so it was actually a wonderful amount of downtime. And so it became really exciting. It was like, oh good, he's down for a nap, and I would have to sit, I would know I had a certain amount of time, and I could produce.
So you knew the artist?
So
what was it like working with her?
It was, the artist is Troy, and I met up with her through some emails, and again through School of Visual Arts. I had a freelance editor before I ended up with Random House, Millard, and my freelance editor is a professor. His name is Chris Couch. Through him and some other people I met along the way, I'm looking for an artist, and this young woman wrote to me, and I looked at her work, and then finally I contacted her, and I said, oh, you know, will you make a sample for me?
Right.
And then this little sample, which she made into this little book, which was just lovely. They were just 3 intense pages, and that ended up being the sample that sold the book.
I want to know, like, how did you deal with the grief? Because I'm sorry, if that happened to a lot of people, you know, they would fold, they would cave, they would. Now, what made you actually become productive and actually want to turn it into something? What is it about you that made that possible?
Well, I think that, you know, we all have our coping processes, and some people do curl up. Other people run around and solve everybody else's problems, which was also me in the beginning. And I think that people really underrate what people do in the grieving process, and I think it ends up being a very productive process, or it can be a very productive process. That book and the other things that I wrote were my anchor.
What do you think people are going to come away from reading the book with? Or what do you hope people?
That's a good question. I think I would like people to understand what it's like to be me, because I think people.
Great. That's great.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's something. You know, how many articles have you come across? 9/11 widow this, 9/11 families that, and I'd like people to come away with understanding what it is to be in the middle of a media, you know, a traumatic spectacle, and also just what it is. I mean, we all face circumstances where somebody dies. It doesn't have to be this big drama, but just we're a society that doesn't really talk about grief, and so this is, I think, an easy way for people to access it, because I think reading comics makes it, you know, when you're in the middle of grieving, you can't really function, you can't really focus, so this is kind of, in its own way, a little manual for that. Because also some parts are really funny, so, you know, it's not just all tragedy, because people really, I mean, you're having a hard time, but people are acting kind of strange around you, too. So
that's amazing. Where will people be able to find the book?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, yes!
They better be able to find it everywhere.
Well, I cannot tell you what an honor it is that you are sitting down with us. I mean, you're an amazing woman and an inspiration to so many, and I think you're going to be astonished when the book comes out, just at the love that will come back to you in the right way, you know, the right kind of scrutiny. So it's our pleasure. We're with Alissa Torres. Thank you so much.